The envelope came from a lawyer I'd never met. Inside was a single page, crisp, professional, devastating. Estate valued at $2.3 million, distributed equally among Emily Chen and David Chen. Your name omitted. Not a typo, not an oversight, just omitted. Like 32 years of being their daughter could be summarized in one word: removed. Was I ever really part of this family? My name is Alex Chen. I'm 32 years old, the youngest of three, and, according to my family, the practical one. That's code. Code for not special. Not creative like Emily, who paints ethereal landscapes that sell for thousands. Not charismatic like David, who can charm investors even as his third business crumbles. Just practical. Boring. Self-sufficient. I learned that role early. When I was 12, I won first place at the regional science fair. My project on renewable energy systems got me featured in the local paper. My parents didn't come to the ceremony. They were at Emily's piano recital across town. When I showed them the trophy, my father smiled and said, "That's nice, honey. Did you remember to pick up your brother from practice?" That was the day I learned my achievements were background noise to their real children's lives. At 19, I got a full academic scholarship to State University. The letter came on a Tuesday. My mother read it, nodded, and said, "Well, that's a relief. Now we can focus on David's tuition." Not congratulations, not pride, just relief that I wouldn't cost them anything. I paid my own way through school, worked 3 jobs, graduated summa cum laude. They came to graduation but left early. Emily had an art show opening. At 28, I bought my first home. Not rented. Bought. Outright. With money I'd saved from my first startup exit. I invited them over for dinner to celebrate. My mother walked through, touched the granite countertops, and said, "This is a nice rental. What's the monthly?" When I told her I'd purchased it, she blinked twice and changed the subject. "David needed to borrow my truck that weekend. Could I help him move again?" My father died on a Wednesday morning. Heart attack, no warning. He was 67 and apparently had been living on borrowed time for years. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, high stress from managing David's endless financial crises. I got the call from Emily, not my mother. Emily. "Dad's gone," she said. "Mom needs you to handle the funeral arrangements. You're good at that kind of thing." I flew home that night, spent 3 days coordinating everything: obituary, service, flowers, catering for 70 people. My mother sat in her chair and cried. Emily painted a memorial portrait. David got drunk and gave a rambling eulogy about how Dad believed in second chances. I wrote the checks, managed the guests, made sure everything ran smoothly. That's what practical children do. The lawyer came to the house 4 days after the funeral. Standard estate settlement meeting. I assumed it would be straightforward. Split 3 ways, some personal items distributed. Done. The lawyer placed 3 folders on the table. He slid 2 across, one to Emily, one to David. Then he folded his hands and looked at me. "Miss Chen, your parents updated their will 6 months ago. Your father wanted me to explain the distribution in person." He cleared his throat. "The estate, valued at approximately $2.3 million, is to be divided equally between Emily and David. There are no provisions for you. Your father's instructions were explicit. Alex has always been self-sufficient. She doesn't need our help. I didn't cry, I didn't yell, I just sat there while Emily reached across the table and squeezed my hand, like I was the one who needed comfort for watching her inherit $1 million. My mother finally spoke. "Sweetheart, you understand, don't you? You're doing so well. You have your business. Emily needs runway for her art career. And David, well, David has so much potential if we just support him a little longer." A little longer. David was 35. This would be his fourth startup funded by family money. But I was the practical one. So I smiled, said I understood, and I left. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying my mother's words. "You're self-sufficient." Like it was a compliment? Like I'd chosen this? I got up at 3 a.m. and did what practical people do. I researched. I requested the estate files. I logged into my father's email account. He'd shared the password years ago when he needed help with something. And I found them. Months of correspondence between my parents and their lawyer. The first email was dated 8 months ago. Subject line, "Estate planning update." My father had written, "We've been discussing the inheritance. Emily's art career needs financial runway. She's talented, but sales are inconsistent. David's business ventures keep failing, but we believe in his potential. Alex is already making mid-six figures from her consulting firm. She doesn't need the inheritance. In fact, giving it to her might be insulting, like we think she can't provide for herself. Better to invest in the children who need us." I stared at that line, "the children who need us," as if needing made you worthy, as if independence disqualified you from love. The emails continued. My mother's replies were colder. "I agree about Alex. She's always been different. More like your sister than our daughter. Too focused on achievement, not enough on family. Emily and David understand what matters." My father's response, "Exactly. Alex will be fine. She always is." There were 17 emails total, spanning 6 months of planning, discussing how to phrase the exclusion, whether to tell me before or after, whether to include a letter explaining their reasoning. They decided against the letter. It might hurt her feelings unnecessarily, my mother wrote. Best to just do it and let her process in her own way. She's resilient. Resilient. Another code word. It meant you can handle being hurt because you've had to before. I kept reading. Found financial records going back 10 years. Every loan to David, carefully tracked in a spreadsheet my father maintained. Startup seed funding, $45,000. Bar renovation, $87,000. Inventory for failed retail venture, $63,000. Legal fees from business dispute, $38,000. The list went on. Total, $340,000 over a decade. Every penny, a gift, not a loan. David never paid back a cent. Emily's sheet was shorter, but still substantial. Art studio lease, $2,000 per month for 36 months. Gallery fees and framing, $28,000. Marketing and website, $15,000. European inspiration trip, $22,000. Total, $137,000. I looked for my own sheet. Found it. One line. Alex. $0. Self-funded education, business, and life. No assistance requested or provided since age 18. 2 weeks after the funeral, my mother called. "Alex, we need to do the personal items. Can you come Sunday, 2 p.m.? Her voice was careful, like she was talking to someone fragile. I said yes, but this time, I came prepared. I hired a lawyer. Not to contest the will, I didn't want their money. I hired her to witness, to document, to sit beside me while I set boundaries for the first time in 32 years. Her name was Jennifer. She wore a gray suit and carried a leather portfolio. When she introduced herself to my mother, I watched the color drain from Mom's face. We sat in the living room, the same room where I'd shown them my science fair trophy 20 years ago. Emily was on the couch, looking nervous. David was late, as always. My mother sat in my father's chair, avoiding my eyes. I placed a folder on the coffee table, 17 printed emails, 10 years of financial records, a timeline I'd created showing every achievement of mine they'd missed, every bailout they'd given my siblings, every time they'd chosen them over me. I found Dad's correspondence with the estate lawyer, I said. My voice was steady, calm. I'd practiced this. I understand the decision. I'm not contesting the will. My mother exhaled, relieved. Too soon. I'm also formally declining any personal items. No photos, no furniture, no mementos. I don't want anything that reminds me of what I wasn't allowed to be part of. Emily started crying. Soft, wounded sounds. My mother reached for her hand. Of course she did. David arrived then, walking in like he was interrupting a boring meeting. What did I miss? He dropped into the armchair, sprawled out. Entitled. My mother said, "Alex hired a lawyer. I'm not sure what she's doing." I opened my folder, slid the financial tracking sheet across the table. David, over the past 10 years, Mom and Dad gave you $340,000. Emily, you received $137,000. I received $0. Not because I didn't need help, because independence was the only role I was allowed to play in this family. David picked up the paper, read it, laughed, actually laughed. So what? They believed in me. That's what family does. I looked at him. Really looked. At 35, he'd never held a job longer than 18 months, never paid rent without help, never succeeded at anything except asking. No, I said. That's what enablers do. Family believes in you enough to let you fail, to let you grow. They gave you money because it was easier than watching you face consequences. And they gave Emily money because her art was special. But me? I was just resilient, self-sufficient, the robot. Emily's crying intensified. Alex, please, this is hard for all of us. Dad just died. Can't we grieve without attacking each other? I turned to her. Sweet Emily, whose gallery shows I'd attended alone for years while our parents wrote checks. Emily, who'd called me exactly 3 times in the past decade, twice to borrow money, once to ask if I could store her paintings. I'm not attacking you. I'm establishing boundaries. Going forward, our relationship is businesslike. I'll be polite, civil, but I'm done pretending we're close. I'm done being the practical one who makes everyone else's life work while her own feelings don't matter. My mother stood. How dare you? After everything we did for you, we raised you, fed you, put a roof over your head. And this is how you repay us? By throwing money in our faces when your father isn't even cold yet? Jennifer, my lawyer, spoke for the first time. Mrs. Chen, Alex has every right to set boundaries in her family relationships. This isn't about money. It's about equity and emotional respect. My mother's face went red. Emotional respect? I'll tell you about respect. Alex was always difficult, always so serious, so focused on proving she was better than everyone. She never needed us because she never let us in. And now she's trying to make us feel guilty for loving her siblings differently? There it was. Loving them differently. Not equally, differently. Because their love was conditional on need, on compliance, on staying small enough to manage. I stood. Mom, I'm not angry. I'm just done. Done funding your delusions about who I should be. Done pretending my achievements don't threaten you. Done sacrificing my worth at the altar of Emily and David's potential. I'm not contesting the will because I don't want to fight you. I want to free you. You don't have to worry about me anymore. I'm self-sufficient. Remember? I walked toward the door. David called after me. Alex, come on, don't be dramatic. You're taking this too personally. I stopped, turned. David, you failed at 4 businesses and never once taken responsibility. That's personal. I succeeded at 3 and got excluded from the family for it. That's not personal. That's pattern. Learn the difference. Emily was sobbing now. My mother looked shocked, hurt, defensive, all at once. Jennifer gathered her things. As we reached the door, my mother said, "If you leave like this, Alex, you're proving everything they said about you, that you're cold, that you don't care about family." I looked at her, this woman who'd raised me, who'd taught me to tie my shoes and read chapter books, who'd also taught me that love was something I had to earn and could never quite achieve. "Mom," I said quietly, "they didn't exclude me from the will because I'm cold. They excluded me because I reminded them that love shouldn't have to be earned, and that was too threatening to admit." I didn't hear from them for 3 months. Not a call, not a text, not an email. The silence was loud. It said, "You broke the rules. You spoke up. Now you get nothing." But nothing felt like freedom. I started therapy the week after the confrontation. My therapist's name was Dr. Marion Hayes. She specialized in family systems and intergenerational trauma. In our first session, she asked me to describe my family role in one word. I said, necessary. She wrote it down. Asked me to describe how I wanted to be seen. I couldn't answer. I'd never thought about it. Over 6 months, I learned that self-sufficient wasn't my personality. It was a survival skill. I'd developed it at 8 years old when my mother forgot to pick me up from school. I'd waited for 2 hours, finally walked home, 3 miles, in the rain. When I arrived, soaking wet, she looked up from helping Emily with a painting and said, "Oh, honey, I completely forgot. You're so independent. I knew you'd figure it out." I'd learned, don't need things. Don't ask for things. Just figure it out. Because needing made you a burden. Dr. Hayes asked, what would happen if you let yourself need something from someone safe? I didn't know. I'd never tried. Around this time, the boundary testing started. Emily called first, 4 months after the confrontation. Her voice was small, careful. "Alex, hi. I know we haven't talked. I'm in trouble, financially. The gallery dropped me. I have 3 months of savings left. I need help." The old me would have sent money, asked how much, fixed it immediately. The new me said, "I'm sorry to hear that, Emily. Have you considered a business consultant? I can refer you to someone who specializes in art careers. Her hourly rate is reasonable." Silence. Then, "You want me to pay for advice?" "Yes," I said. "That's how professional relationships work. I'm not in a position to provide financial support, but I can offer professional resources." Emily's voice changed, harder. "You're really doing this? You're really going to let me fail because you're angry about the will?" "Emily, I'm not letting you fail. I'm letting you choose. You can accept help that teaches you sustainability, or you can wait for someone to rescue you. But that someone isn't me anymore." She hung up, called my mother, told her I was heartless, that money had changed me, that I'd become exactly what they'd always feared, someone who valued success over family. My mother left me a voicemail. "Alex, I raised you better than this. Emily is your sister. Blood helps blood." I didn't respond. Boundaries don't require explanation to people who reject them. 2 months later, David called. His bar, the fourth business venture, had finally closed for good. He needed a cosign on a new loan, a guaranteed opportunity, he said. A CBD coffee shop concept. It's the future, Alex. I just need $75,000 in startup capital and someone to co-sign the lease. With your credit, we could do this. We. I noticed that. Not, I could do this with your help, but we. Like my credit score was community property. David, I'm not co-signing. I'm not investing, but I'd be happy to review your business plan and provide feedback. I can also send you information about small business workshops and SBA loan resources. He laughed. That same dismissive sound from the confrontation. Workshops? Are you serious? I don't need a fucking workshop, Alex. I need family who believes in me. Believing in you, I said carefully, means believing you can succeed without my money. If you can't pitch this to a bank, you can't pitch it to customers. Maybe that's the workshop you need. He called me a word I won't repeat, said I was jealous of his vision, that I'd always been threatened by his creativity. I waited for him to finish. Then I said, David, I'm going to hang up now. When you're ready to talk without insults, I'm here. But I'm not here to fund another failure. I hung up. My hands were shaking, not from anger, but from fear. Fear that I'd done the wrong thing. Fear that setting boundaries made me the villain they always said I was. Dr. Hayes helped me see their reaction to my boundaries was proof the boundaries were necessary. Healthy people don't punish you for self-respect. The third test came 8 months after the confrontation. My mother called, not about Emily or David, but about herself. She had a health scare, a fall, broken hip, surgery scheduled. She needed help with medical bills. Her insurance had a high deductible, $15,000 out of pocket. I could hear the calculation in her voice. This wasn't David's failed business or Emily's dropped gallery. This was legitimate, medical, life and death adjacent. Surely I couldn't say no to this. I didn't say no. I said, I'll call the hospital directly and set up a payment plan. I'll cover the bills. Relief in her voice. Oh, thank God. Alex, I knew you'd... I interrupted. Mom, I'm covering it by paying the hospital, not by giving you cash. You'll receive nothing directly. The bills will be marked as paid. Pause. You don't trust me? I trust you to be who you've always been. This way, you get the help you need, and I get the boundary I need. It's not personal. She was quiet. Then, you've become so hard, Alex. No, Mom, I've become fair. And fair feels hard to people who are used to me giving everything. 18 months after my father's funeral, my mother called. It was a Tuesday morning. I was in a meeting. She left a voicemail. Alex, it's Mom. I need to talk to you. It's important. About the house. The house. The family home where I'd grown up. Where I'd learned to be invisible. Where I'd waited 2 hours for a ride that never came. Where I hidden my trophies in my room because no one else wanted to see them. I called her back that evening. She answered on the first ring. Alex, thank you for calling back. Her voice was strained, older than I remembered. I need to tell you something. The house, we're going to lose it. I waited. She continued. Emily and David, they invested their inheritance. David talked Emily into a venture, a boutique hotel concept. They were going to flip properties and... It doesn't matter. The point is, it failed. The money's gone. All of it. And they'd mortgaged the house for additional capital. We're 3 months behind on payments. The bank is foreclosing. I did the math in my head. $2.3 million. Gone in 18 months. I thought about my father's careful spreadsheets, his belief in David's unlimited potential, his conviction that Emily's art was special. All that faith evaporated. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, and I was. Not vindicated, not satisfied, just sad. Sad that they'd learned nothing. Sad that $2 million couldn't buy them wisdom. My mother's voice cracked. "Alex, I know I don't have the right to ask. I know how I've treated you, how we all did, but I'm asking anyway. Can you buy the house, keep it in the family? I can't lose this place. It's all I have left of your father." I sat with that for a long moment. The old Alex would have said yes immediately, would have rescued them without question, would have proven once again that self-sufficient meant available for their needs. The old Alex would have also been angry, would have wanted to say, "You excluded me from the will. Now you want me to save you." Would have wanted them to beg, to apologize, to admit they were wrong. But I wasn't the old Alex anymore. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even hurt. I was just clear. "Mom, I'll make you an offer. Fair market value, based on current assessment, 20% below asking, given the condition and market. The house becomes a rental property managed by my real estate company. You can rent it at market rate, or you can sell to me and relocate. Those are the options." Silence. Long enough that I thought she'd hung up. Then, "Market rate? Alex, I'm your mother. You'd charge your own mother rent?" "Yes, because I'm not your savior. I'm your daughter, and daughters deserve relationships built on equity, not emergency." She started to cry, not the soft tears she'd cried for Emily, hard, bitter sobs. "You've become so cold, Alex. Money changed you. Success changed you. You're not the girl I raised." I took a breath. This was the moment. The final test. Did I need her approval? Did I need her to understand? "You're right," I said quietly. "I'm not the girl you raised. That girl believed her worth was measured by how little she needed. That girl thought love meant erasing herself so others could shine. That girl is gone, Mom, and I'm not sorry about that." "So, you're just going to let us lose everything?" "No. I offered you a fair solution, but fair feels like punishment to people who are used to special treatment. That's not my problem to fix anymore." She hung up. I sat in my quiet apartment, my phone on the table, my life, for the first time, completely my own. 3 weeks later, she accepted the offer. The house sold. They moved to a smaller place across town. Emily got a job at an art supply store. David started bartending at someone else's restaurant. My mother sent me a single text. "The closing is Tuesday." I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. 3 years after my father's death, my consulting firm became something I'd never planned. A legacy. Not the kind you inherit, the kind you build. The company was valued at $8 million by then. Public record. Filed with the state. Listed in business journals. But that number wasn't the legacy. The number was just proof of concept. Proof that self-sufficiency, when chosen instead of forced, becomes power. The real legacy started small. I'd been mentoring a young woman named Sarah, 24 years old, first-generation college graduate. Brilliant mind for systems design. She came to me through a professional network asking for advice on starting her own firm. During our third coffee meeting, she said something that stopped me cold. "My parents didn't come to my graduation. They were helping my brother move into his new apartment. Third time he'd failed at living independently, but they kept showing up for him. I graduated summa cum laude and took myself to dinner afterward. I knew that story. I'd lived that story. So I asked her, "What do you need?" Not what she wanted, what she needed. She looked shocked, like no one had ever asked. She said, "I need someone to believe I can do this, even though I don't come from money, even though I don't have family support. I just need someone to see me." I saw her, so I invested in her company, not as charity, as partnership. $50,000 for 20% equity. Her business scaled in 18 months. Last year, she hired her 15th employee. That coffee meeting became a program. I called it Invisible Achievers, for people whose accomplishments get minimized by families who can't handle their success. I started mentoring 5 people, then 10, then 20. Now there are 50. Entrepreneurs, artists, scientists, teachers, all of them brilliant, all of them starved for validation they'd never received at home. I didn't give them money. I gave them what I'd needed at 24. Someone who believed their success wasn't a threat. Someone who celebrated their independence instead of punishing it. Someone who saw their worth without needing them to fail first. The mentorship program became a scholarship fund. I endowed it with $500,000. The Invisible Achiever Scholarship. Full ride for first-generation college students from dysfunctional families. The essay prompt? Describe a moment when your achievement was minimized, then describe what you built anyway. We've funded 23 students so far. 3 have graduated. All 3 came to my office to thank me. I cried each time. The scholarship became a therapy fund. I partnered with 3 local practices, subsidized therapy for adult children of narcissistic or dysfunctional families. 50% of the cost covered. No questions asked. Just, here's healing. You deserve it. We've served 107 people in 2 years. Last month, the local business council gave me an award, Entrepreneur of the Year, Community Impact category. The ceremony was at the convention center. 200 people attended. My mentees came, my scholarship recipients, the therapists I'd partnered with. Sarah gave a speech about how one coffee conversation changed her life. I stood at that podium and looked out at faces that saw me, really saw me, not as self-sufficient, not as cold, not as the practical one, just as someone who'd survived something hard and decided to make sure others didn't have to survive it alone. The photo ran in the business section of the newspaper, me holding a crystal award surrounded by my mentees. The caption, "Local entrepreneur builds empire of empowerment." My mother saw it. I know because Emily sent me an email. Subject line, "Congrats." Body, "Congrats on the award. I'm proud of you. M." I stared at that email for 24 hours, drafting responses in my head, deleting them, wanting to say, "Where were you when I graduated summa cum laude? When I bought my first house? When I needed you to be proud before I had an award to prove my worth?" But I didn't say any of that. I wrote back, "Thank you." 2 words, not warm, not cold, just complete. I didn't need her pride anymore. I'd built something she could never give me, my own sense of worth. And that was the only inheritance that mattered. I framed the photo from the ceremony, hung it in my office where a family photo used to be. 50 faces looking back at me. My real family, the one I chose, the one I built. The legacy no one could exclude me from because I was the one who created it.
Here's what I learned about inheritance. It's not about money. It's never really about money. My siblings got $2.3 million. I got nothing. And somehow, 3 years later, I'm the only one who's wealthy. Not in dollars, but in peace. They have to live with the knowledge that they squandered a fortune, that they proved every fear my father had about their potential, that they needed to be rescued from their own rescue. I don't say this to gloat. I say it because there's a lesson here about what we inherit and what we build. My parents gave Emily and David everything: money, belief, endless second chances. And in doing so, they gave them nothing. No resilience, no self-trust, no ability to survive failure because they'd never been allowed to fail. They gave me nothing. And in doing so, they gave me everything. They gave me the gift of necessity, the gift of having to figure it out, the gift of learning that my worth wasn't tied to their validation. I didn't choose that gift. I didn't want it, but I received it anyway, and I decided what to do with it. That's the difference between inheritance and legacy. Inheritance is what you're given. Legacy is what you build. And legacy can't be taken away in a will, can't be squandered in a failed investment, can't be excluded with a lawyer's letter. I spent years angry at my parents, angry that they couldn't see me, couldn't celebrate me, couldn't love me the way they loved my siblings. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just clear. Clear that their inability to love me wasn't about me. It was about them. My mother couldn't love someone she couldn't control, and I was never controllable. Even as a child, even trying to be good, I was too independent, too capable, too threatening to the narrative she needed that children need parents and parents who are needed are valuable. My father couldn't love someone who made his other children look weak by comparison. Every time I succeeded without help, it highlighted that Emily and David weren't succeeding with it. My existence was an accusation he couldn't bear. So they wrote me out, not just from the will, from the story they told themselves about family. And I spent 32 years trying to edit myself back in, trying to be smaller, quieter, more needy, more grateful, more like a daughter they could recognize. The day I stopped trying was the day I became free. Now I look at my life and I see what they couldn't. A woman who survived being unloved by the people who were supposed to love her most. A woman who took that survival and turned it into service. Who said, I was invisible, so I'll make sure others are seen. I was excluded, so I'll make sure others belong. I was told my success was a problem, so I'll teach others that their success is a gift. That's not revenge. That's redemption. Not of them, of myself. Redemption of the 8-year-old who walked home in the rain, of the 12-year-old whose trophy gathered dust, of the 19-year-old who worked 3 jobs to prove she was worthy of a seat at a table she was never invited to. I released my family, not through confrontation, not through cutting them off, just through clarity. Clarity that I could love them from a distance, wish them well without being involved, hope they heal without being responsible for their healing. Emily still emails occasionally, surface-level updates. I respond politely. David never reached out again after the cosign conversation. That's fine. My mother sends a card on my birthday. I send one back. We exist in each other's lives the way distant acquaintances do. Cordial, detached, safe. And I'm okay with that. Better than okay. Because I finally understand. The people who can't see your value are showing you exactly where not to invest your heart. And I stopped investing in people who only valued me when I was convenient. If you're listening to this, and you see yourself in my story, if you're the child who was self-sufficient because no one offered to carry you, I need you to hear something.
You're not too much. You were never too much. You just intimidated people who needed you to stay small so they could feel big. If you achieved everything they said you couldn't, and somehow that made you less worthy in their eyes, that's not about you. That's about them. That's about people who can only love what they can control, who can only celebrate what doesn't threaten their narrative. If you're building an empire from scraps while they ask why you're not grateful for crumbs, stop waiting for their approval. You don't need permission to claim what was always yours. Your worth, your success, your right to take up space without apologizing for it. The will isn't the inheritance. Your life is. Every boundary you set, that's your inheritance. Every achievement they minimized, that's your inheritance. Every moment you chose your peace over their approval, that's your inheritance. Every time you looked at their limitations and said, I will not inherit your fear, that's your legacy. You don't need their validation to build something extraordinary. You just need to stop waiting, stop performing, stop proving, stop shrinking, stop believing that if you just achieve one more thing, just succeed a little bit more, just become a little bit better, they'll finally see you. They won't. Not because you're not enough, but because seeing you requires them to confront their own limitations. And that's a confrontation most people spend their lives avoiding. So build anyway. Build without their blessing. Build without their belief. Build without their money, their support, their approval. Build because you can, because you deserve to, because your existence is not an apology or an explanation. It's a declaration. And when you're standing in your own life, surrounded by people who chose you instead of people who were assigned to you, when you're looking at the legacy you built from nothing except your stubborn refusal to stay small, you'll understand what I learned. True wealth isn't what they leave you. It's what you build despite them. It's who you become in the process. It's the moment you realize you were never the problem. You were always the solution they were too afraid to accept. You're not alone in this. There's a whole community of us, the invisible achievers, the excluded ones, the children who were loved conditionally and chose to love ourselves completely. We see you, we celebrate you, and we're here. I'm standing in my office right now. On the wall behind me are notes. Handwritten thank you cards from every person I've mentored, 50 of them, pinned in a grid. Each one a story. Each one a life that was told it wasn't enough. Each one proof that we were always more than enough. Below the cards is the photo from the award ceremony. Me and my chosen family. The people who see me, who celebrate me, who don't love me because I'm convenient or because I serve a purpose in their narrative. They love me because I'm me, loud, ambitious, too much, exactly as I am. My biological family taught me I wasn't worthy of inheritance, so I built something they could never take away. A life that doesn't need their permission to matter. A legacy that exists independent of their love. A worth that was never theirs to give, because it was always mine to claim. 3 years ago, I read a letter that said I was omitted. Today, I understand. I was never omitted. I was freed. Freed to build something real, something mine. Something that will outlive every dollar they left my siblings. Because money runs out, but impact compounds. I don't hate my family. I don't even resent them anymore. I just see them clearly. See their wounds. See their limitations. See the pattern they inherited and passed down until I broke it. And I hope somewhere, somehow, they find their own healing. Not because I need them to, but because everyone deserves peace, even the people who couldn't give it to us. As for me, I'm at peace already, standing in a life I built, surrounded by a family I chose, living a legacy they couldn't touch. That's what true wealth looks like, and it was never in the will.